Does January 6th happen if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen? I'm just curious what your answer would be to that.
Does January 6th happen if Nancy Pelosi decided to
That wasn't
the
my
Capitol
question.
building?
Don't answer my question with a question.
Does the January 6th happen if
You're not answering. You're deflecting.
If the mayor of D.C. decided to protect the city?
So I'll answer your questions. I'll answer your question, but I just, with all due respect, if you could just answer. We only have a couple more minutes here, and I do appreciate your time, Harrison, by the way. It's a good conversation. I'll repeat it one more time. If months before the 2020 election, or after the election, I should say, months before the January 6th insurrection, if Donald Trump didn't say that the election was stolen and that Joe Biden cheated, does January 6th happen? The question has nothing to do right now with Nancy Pelosi.
Well, for one, Donald Trump didn't incite the riot.
That's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you.
Well, to answer your point even more directly, I will say that you're discrediting the viewpoints of millions of Americans that have questions about the legitimacy of the election, who, regardless of what Donald Trump had to say, were up in arms where they feel like their election was stolen from them. And regardless of what Donald Trump told them to do,
which it wasn't,
regardless of what Donald Trump did or did not tell them to do, they were going to exercise their right to protest. Now,
well, that's not exactly what happened.
No one excuses the people that were taking this too far and breaking the law and hurting our law enforcement. No one on our side of the aisle, for the most part, is condoning any of those.
Hold on a second. Donald Trump called them patriots and hostages. Some of those people attacked police officers.
Some of them are hostages to the system.
No. Donald Trump, hold on. Donald Trump did not say some of them. He's characterized all of them as hostages and patriots. Some of those officers were beaten with their own batons, and Donald Trump has called them patriots and hostages, sir. Do you defend that type of language? He didn't say some of them. He characterized it as all of them. They're all hostages and patriots. Direct quote. Do you support people who attack police officers as patriots and hostages?
My hope for you and your audience is that your bass and your voice goes up just as high when Kamala Harris bails out rioters and looters during the summer. No. Because if you want to be this guy who wants to be holier than thou,
you can ask me about Harris. I will answer that question.
If you want to be Mr. Sanctimonious about this and the bass in your voice wants to go up when you're talking about January 6th.
Because Harris never called. Can you name me one prominent Democrat in office, including Harris, who's ever said people that have attacked police officers and assaulted them as hostages and patriots? Go. Give me one prominent Democrat.
They bail them out of prison. So that's a problem.
Excuse me. That's different.
They bail them out of prison.
Excuse me. That's different.
They have cashless bail.
That's
which
different.
Doesn't even afford them the opportunity. Oh, it's different. But they can go out
raising money for someone that you don't believe can afford legal representation is different than characterizing someone
doing what?
Who
for doing
beats,
what?
Why won't you answer my? Why won't you? Why won't you?
Lighting a target on fire?
Why is it always whataboutism with you guys? Why don't you answer my question directly? Donald Trump characterized some of those people who committed very violent crimes on January 6th, all of them, as patriots and hostages. Why won't you answer my question directly? Do you support that language? Do you think everybody on January 6th, including those that committed very serious crimes, are patriots and hostages? That question has nothing to do
Donald Trump has also addressed some of his concerns regarding the people that broke the law, and he's always said we're going to stand for our law enforcement, we're going to stand for law and order. You're missing that part of his quotes, too, which I'm not that surprised about.
Okay,
now,
well, you're
the reality is when you talk about the hostages that Donald Trump talks about, you have a situation where the D.C. district attorney and Joe Biden's DOJ has treated these people as hostages, keeping them in prison. They had this ridiculous law that was overturned by the Supreme Court, which ended up, if you just happen to be on the grounds of the Capitol, was rights for you to be locked up, no cancer treatments, be in jail for 6-7 months.
I can't speak to that
without even a hearing. You can't speak to it because you're not
wrong.
You haven't dedicated a minute of your time to actually look into some of these people's situations and come to the conclusion.
Yes, I have.
And come to the conclusion that what we have seen is actually devastating. Anybody, regardless of your political affiliation, you should be concerned how some of these people have been treated in these prisons. It's actually very sad.
Okay, you keep using the term "some of these people" again.
Okay, but see, you've been covering Donald Trump enough to have your derangement syndrome.
I don't have derangement syndrome, sir. Quite frankly.
In my opinion, you do.
Okay, well, in my opinion,
I'm just going to be keeping 100% honest with you.
In my opinion, I'm going to keep myself honest with you. You get paid a lot of money to spew Donald Trump right-wing talking points. So if you're going to
beautiful
insult
thing about
me,
it, this is an unpaid job.
Guess what?
All volunteer because I want to take the country back.
Guess what?
So
guess what?
You can
we haven't lost
look
the
at the
country.
FECs.
We haven't
look at the FEC. I'm not being paid.
Okay, we haven't lost the country, sir. I didn't vote.
We have
not.
We have 10.3 million illegal immigrants in this country, and the Democrats want to make them voters overnight.
Why did Donald Trump not pass the border bill then? If you care so much about the border, with MAGA Republicans,
the border bill would have allowed 1 million illegal immigrants in a year.
Right, here we go. So MAGA Republicans,
every single year they would have continued to allow illegal immigrants. So the right number for illegal immigrants into this country is 0.
Why? By the way, there are less people crossing the border illegally right now than there were when Donald Trump left office. But you don't want to. You just want to talk about feelings. You don't want to talk about actual facts. Okay.
If you're going to stand on your radio show and say that the border is not in crisis,
when did I say that?
And let your audience to laugh you off.
Hey, Harrison, did I say that, or are you putting words in my mouth?
You're saying that the crisis is lower than it was.
What I am saying, first of all, I didn't use the term crisis. Again, I need you to pay attention, Harrison.
No, you wouldn't.
Okay?
You wouldn't use it. You wouldn't use the word crisis.
Harrison,
because that wouldn't be something that you would do.
Why don't you ask me a question instead of putting words in my mouth? Do I think it's a crisis? Yes, I do. We've had issues at the border for decades. It's horrible. My sister passed away from a fentanyl overdose. Nobody takes this more personally. Thank you. Nobody takes this more personally than I do. But you know what I don't do? I don't blame Joe Biden or a politician for why my sister passed away. We've had issues at the border for decades. There were also people that died from drug overdoses, hundreds of thousands of them, by the way, when Trump was in office. I don't blame Donald Trump for that, no more than I will blame Donald Trump for COVID. But if you want to just blame everything on Joe Biden, that's absurd and it's disingenuous, sir.
It's not disingenuous. The reason we have a border crisis, the reason why fentanyl is able to come in record levels is because of Joe Biden's and Kamala Harris's failed policies at the border. You can't deny the fact that when he came into office, he did everything possible to take away every single border executive order or policy that the former president has put into effect. Why take away Remain in Mexico? Why take away, I think it was Title 90, Article 92, whatever it was, that kept people overseas before coming into our country.
Why didn't he build a wall? Why didn't he build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it? 16%. 16% of the wall was built and Mexico didn't pay for it, and he campaigned on it for 2 years on that slogan.
One, you refurbished a lot of wall. He refurbished
16% was built. 16%.
A lot. You're talking about new build.
Yeah.
You're talking about new build, so let's have a genuine conversation. Sure. You're talking about new build.
Did Mexico build
and the administration
did Mexico pay for that refurbishing? Did they
no, but what Mexico did do is put 28,000 troops on the border to make sure that the border was.
We're going to build a wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it. Is that a failed policy? Because that's what Donald Trump ran on when he ran against Hillary Clinton. Is that a failed policy?
Donald Trump's immigration policies are not a failed policy, and the reason why you see Donald Trump up double digits when it comes to the issue of immigration, because the American people trust him on this issue, because they know that this is not a political tool. That Kamala Harris is now featuring the border wall in ads. She wants to make it seem like she wants to support this border. This is a woman that wanted to get rid of ICE. She wanted to abolish ICE.
She supported the border bill. And MAGA Republicans. By the way, do you know that Donald Trump once called Mr. Langford, one of the lead faces, MAGA Republicans who put this bill together, as one of the toughest Republicans on the border? He helped put this bill together.
Listen,
go ahead.
You know who also opposed the Langford bill in the Senate? Mitch McConnell, no friend of President Trump, because Mitch McConnell himself, Mitt Romney also opposed this bill. So some of your biggest fans, the Republicans who happen to side with your side more than our side.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. And now let's be factually accurate. And that's okay, because you don't know anything about my past. And I don't know a lot about your past either, but I appreciate the conversation. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 midterms. I make no mistake about it. I am very anti-Donald Trump.
You voted for Joe Biden?
I did, and I'll tell you why. It was an anti.
And you voted for Kamala Harris in 2024.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. It is an anti. You can laugh or you can listen, because the reason why you guys lost in 2020 is you don't listen to people like me. I've been a registered independent my whole life. It was an anti-Donald Trump vote. If Donald Trump just stopped attacking people and he stopped going after POW.
You're voting on personality, and you're not voting on policy.
I vote on policy as well. He's against abortion. He's for abortion. He said that he was proud of overturning Roe versus Wade and being a part of that. And then the other day, all of a sudden, he says 6 weeks is not long enough. We need to make it longer. No, the biggest tax breaks for the top 1% in decades. No, I am against that. I'm against that. So there are a lot of policies.
And you're for price controls?
I'll tell you what I am for.
You're for taxing capital gains, and you're for a rise in the corporate income tax.
I'll tell you I'll tell you how I vote, and it might be different clearly from the way you vote. And
based on personality, it seems.
No, I don't put policy ahead of principles. I don't want a 34-count felon rapist as the leader of the free world. I don't want a guy that attacks women on looks and sides with Vladimir Putin to be the leader of the free world. I don't want a guy
But you want a Vladimir Putin on the rise that didn't happen under Donald Trump. Okay, you want an open border.
Right, so
you want higher inflation.
So you want to blame
Trump
for that.
Completely get rid of the fossil fuel industry. See, the thing about it, my issue with people like you is that, listen, I'm not discrediting the fact that there are people in this country that will refuse to vote for Donald Trump because they don't like him. And I have people in my family like this.
Understood.
And I say, listen, I'm not going to debate you over personality. You either like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump. And that might have worked for 2020. Or principles, the higher moral order that people want to stand on.
Crimes and embarrassing this country on the national stage. Go ahead.
And Joe Biden didn't embarrass the country when he's half asleep the whole time.
What?
So when you talk about,
what are you talking about?
He's been on vacation 40% of his
Donald
40%
Trump.
of his
Donald Trump. Okay, you want to talk about vacation? Let's do that.
No, I'm going back.
No. You're talking about. I'll let you finish, but you're talking about Joe Biden on vacation. Donald Trump played more golf in 4 years than any other president in this country.
They track these things, right? They track these things.
Yeah, I know they do.
They track these
I know
things,
they do.
And Donald Trump is not even close when it comes to the level of quote-unquote vacation that a president has.
Donald Trump went after Barack Obama for playing too much golf. In 4 years, Donald Trump played more golf than Barack Obama played in 8 years. So go ahead.
Inflation was what? Inflation was 1.7. We had a
then we had
border.
COVID. So you don't want
to... We had peace in the Middle East. We had
really?
Operation Legend that, put federal forces in cities like St. Louis.
How was the country when Trump left office? How was the economy compared to where he took it over? You don't want to blame him
because of COVID. Because of COVID.
And exactly, but you don't want to blame him for that. When he said 15 cases down to 0, it's going to be gone by Easter. But he handled it good, right? He took coronavirus press conferences and he turned them into campaign rallies, right?
It's called Operation Warp Speed. He did something that no other president probably would have been able to do. He created 3 vaccines. He put
I'll give him credit for that. I give him credit.
He built massive he organized massive aircraft carriers off the coast of New York and other major cities.
Oh, no, I'll give him credit for that.
To house patients. The issue with COVID is that you had Democrat governors like Andrew Cuomo and Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom who decided to take people's liberties away and the biggest thing that they did was they ruined a generation of students by closing away schools when all the evidence said that children are not as vulnerable to the disease as old people, yet they still listen to Weingarten and the teachers union.
How about Dr. Fauci? Schools. Wasn't it Donald Trump that hired Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx? I thought he only hired the best people.
Dr. Fauci has been a bureaucrat for over 30 years.
Then why did Donald Trump hire him then?
Because, and if you would have fired him, what would you have said?
I didn't ask you about firing him. I asked you a question. Why did he hire him?
So what's the opposite of hiring someone? Firing someone.
He only hires the best people, right?
Dr. Fauci was already in the government. You're having such a disingenuous argument.
No,
I
it's
actually
not.
feel bad for the people that listen to you. You make it seem
bad
as if
for the people that listen to me. Yet the
you
guy
went above and beyond.
You feel bad.
You went above and beyond to be disingenuous with his argument.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
listen,
you are.
When you go
on, Donald Trump was Dr. Fauci a part of the bureaucracy at the CDC and NIH before COVID when Donald Trump was president? Yes or no?
If you want to be condescending,
yes or no?
I'm being respectful to you. If you want to be,
yes or no?
I'm going to answer your question.
The thing about it is you have a platform in which I've dedicated 30 minutes of my time,
which I appreciate,
and you're not being genuine.
No, I am.
You're not being genuine in the conversation.
You talk about. No, I am, and I'll answer any question you have for me. I think you're the one that's being disingenuous, with all due respect. You talk about the responsibility of having a platform, right? We agree. I think when you have a platform, you have a responsibility. Yet the former president of the United States continues to lie about elections. He continues to lie and say he won. He's the same guy with the platform that he had during COVID, said 15 cases down to 0. It's going to be gone by Easter. The guy with the platform is the same guy who attacks our military, attacks Gold Star families, attacks women based on looks. He has nicknames for people he doesn't like. And yet you have the gall to say, Brian, you have a platform. I feel bad for your listeners. How do you look a child in the eye and say, this is our president, we should be proud of him, when he literally verbally assaults everybody that disagrees with him, and yet you want to talk to me about the responsibility of a platform? Give me a frickin' break.